We are now.
We're late. Important date.
All
right.
Whoa.
Well, there we are. All right, it's been 2 weeks, right? Well, so...
yeah, we had a break.
Yeah, we had a break for
Reefapalooza.
And we were running a million miles an hour. I decided, like, this time, like, let's, like, not run all the way and go do the trade show and not try to jam all this stuff in at the same time. So, it's terrible for you, good news for us. So, this week, we're going to talk about new tanks. I also got Nick Manderfeld to join us. And for those of you that don't know, Nick is our wholesale manager. How many years you been here?
6 plus.
6 plus. All right, so you were in the old building even.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's been with us for a super long time. I will tell you beyond that, Nick is one of the steels that sharpen steel. How many conversations we think you had, you and me?
Oh, uncountable.
Uncountable. Exactly.
How many times have you been called steel?
Yeah, steel, yes.
Ooh, I don't know.
In many video references too,
Yeah,
yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So he's one of the
Flattering.
people that you hear from a lot, whether you know it or not, and it's coming out of my mouth because I talk to Nick all the time. Think about how we can perfect things. What would you do in this case? Part of it, he has a biology degree, so he adds like a little bit of knowledge that like was totally outside of my ecosphere. And sometimes like, how do you even say this, man? How do you pronounce this word?
Latin's tricky.
Yeah, he's got it. So he's joining us today, and the real reason though he's joining us is because you've been reefing for how many years?
About 20.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me by 5. So, I mean, inside 20 years, you know, you learn a lot of different things about why you do this, what you're in the hobby for, and why, like, this is all coming together for you. And so that is the heart of it, man. The three of us are going to talk about, like, you know, why it is we even reef, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we said, why do you reef, bro?
Yeah, why do you even reef, bro?
Why do you even reef? Because I think that's like an obvious answer in the essence, like, oh, I love fishing coral. But like, I've been talking about this for a couple weeks for people at the show. You know, Greg Carroll and I were talking about it. They're like, why? I mean, there's a reason why you set up the first tank, but after like 10 years, why do I keep doing this?
Keeps you trucking along.
And there's some definable answers for that reason. And if you can do that, and you can answer that for yourself, we can take this one step farther and build out tanks that hold interest instead of like a whole series of never-ending 3-year tanks.
Well, I mean, there's hobbies out there like, I don't know, knitting maybe, or RC cars, or some kind of hobby where...
Those are mixed.
Yeah, no, but if you knit RC cars. But there's like hobbies out there where it's like, okay, there's only so far you can go in them.
I
Non-complex.
think serious knitters would probably disagree.
Well, I mean, yeah, then you start knitting. That's when you start knitting like dog vests and things. You know? I mean, you can just diversify what you knit, but as far as the complexity of things, I don't know. I guess there's probably complexity in each hobby. This one's super complex, though.
Yeah, I think
Or can
everything
be.
has I want to say an end, but everything kind of has like, well, I've taken it
Like-
to some point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Reefing doesn't have an end,
Yeah.
right? Partially because it just gets bigger, partially because most of us don't know what we're doing, and the knowledge set. Like, I've never seen any hobby where the right way is so crazy diversified, right? Like, woodworking, we've decided how to work wood 600 years ago, and we're only perfecting the last little bits, right?
Oh yeah, your dovetails solid.
And reefing, like, we are still learning, and we're learning from each other, right, in real time. And so it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's no end to the amount of stuff you could do, and then the types of tanks. And that's one of the things, like, your first tank is probably like a softy and polyps, and then it's like a mixed tank with euphyllia, and then you're like, oh, I got some SPS corals in there, then I mastered that, and I got clams, and then I'm going NPS, I don't even want lights on this thing, I'm gonna feed it only this, and then it's seahorses, and then like it just like
Higher and higher maintenance.
Yeah, double harder and harder.
Yeah.
Higher
Well, there's-
maintenance is tied to harder.
There's
right?
more at stake too with reefing versus like knitting or RC cars. Worst thing, I run my RC plane into the wall and I have to go buy a new one or something, or I knit, wrong and I have to tear it all apart. But reefing, we're actually trying to keep animals alive.
Both empty your wallet, right?
lose everything.
When crash the plane, crash the tank.
Oh, yeah,
the wallet's
for sure.
empty. But one of them is not heartbreaking.
Oh
like the
yeah,
other one.
exactly. There's death involved of
Yeah.
living creatures. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and ask Randy, man, right off the top here. Or you know what? I'm gonna go since you're the new joiner here. Why is it like starting, like day one? Because there's kind of a couple different things here, man. There's
Why do
like
you
why I
reef?
did this day one. There's why I did it 5 years later, and then why I'm doing it now, right? And like I'm not gonna harp on the whole thing forever, but I just like get a grasp because I think some of us like have some camaraderie in this and do it for similar reasons that we're not totally aware of until somebody speaks it out loud?
So initially it was, oh wow, look at these cool critters. I want them in my house. You know, walking through the fish store one day, you start maybe getting a little braver with what you want to bring home, and eventually you've got coral and saltwater fish, and from there just kind of snowballed. You know, you want the challenge. It's always about the next challenge. It's always about the you know, the next hardest thing to take care of, the next, you know, that and the curiosity that is pretty much limitless as far as this hobby goes. It's you can kind of go on forever. You can kind of
Boom, boom, boom.
yeah.
So that is one of the more interesting things. So I've seen a ton of videos out there that like, is reefing hard or whatever, right? And
It doesn't have to be.
I think they're written like with an agenda, like to tell you like, oh, this is not hard, you can do it, you know, it's not that challenging, whatever. I'm gonna go the other direction, man. Reefing is monumentally hard. It's the hardest pet that you may ever try to maintain. Doesn't mean the actual function of cleaning the glass or whatever is hard, but hard to like sift through the sea of information to finally get the right way, or at least a way that works. You're into this for like 4,000 posts, you know, like months and months of research, trial, failure, whatever. Once you try to figure it out, not hard. The path to figuring it out is super duper duper hard.
You need to know how to differentiate the good advice from the bad advice. So learning through trial and error, unfortunately, is ultimately a big part of it. So you learn who not to.
So some of you watched my Facebook page the other day. I failed this week, and we dosed a half a gallon of sodium bicarbonate in my tank by accident. But I solved it in a matter of hours, and the reason is because I failed that way before. I dosed like 10 gallons of kelp to my tank like 10 years ago, right? And luckily, I came across the right post at the right time, and that one told me to go dump vinegar in like immediately, tablespoon at a time until I fix it, right? And if I hadn't found that right away, I would have lost everything. Instead, I lost xenia and crabs, and all the corals survived. But it's about knowing what you do immediately. In this case, I know unquestionably what I need to do right now to solve this issue. And this one, the alkalinity is like off the hook, right? And so like we just do an entire almost 100% water change with tank water from another tank. Solve it. All the SPS corals are still there today. Still color it even. I couldn't believe we didn't lose a single one. So yeah, you learn the hard way. Keep going. So that was one of the things, though, is when we were talking about this, is like when you see those videos, is it hard? You actually, I think, and you say it's easy, I think you're actually like not feeding the type of person that actually wants to do this, because I will tell you the reason that I ended up liking this. I didn't know in the beginning, and I didn't know this about myself even in the beginning. I like it because it's hard, right? Because it's hard. Makes it cool, makes it kind of unique. You don't see this at everybody's house, and like makes it challenging. If I saw this like it was a cat in everybody's house, I'm probably not interested. You know, I just like, or at least I'd lose interest over time. I wouldn't just keep trying to climb the ladder of cool, different systems.
My little sea monkey system only kept my interest for about a month. And then I was like, okay, well, that was pretty easy. And here they are swimming around. I mean, they're not going through the hoop like I wanted them to, but I need something new.
Fell for the ad in the magazine.
I know.
Okay.
So I'm looking for some feedback.
Kingdom.
Feedback from you guys. If you like the fact that this is hard, man, like give us like a thumbs up or say me too, whatever. Because I'm just super curious, like how many people are in the same boat as like, the fact that this is challenging, the fact that there's a never-ending amount of information to learn here, the fact that like this isn't a super common thing to do is what excites me. The harder it is, the more fun it is.
Yeah, there's so many levels. And it's when you first look at it, it's not like I mean, okay, so freshwater is probably, and to some degree can be hard also. But
planted tanks,
if you get down that rabbit hole, any rabbit hole you get down can be hard. But I mean, from right off the bat, even when you first start thinking about saltwater, I've got to match this salinity thing, which means I'm doing different measurements and testing, and that's just the basis of it. And then I've got to go through this cycle period, and then I've got to get this light right. And there's so many aspects of it that you got to get right from the outset before you even want to think about being successful.
It is. Monumentally hard. I don't care what anybody says. And maybe you're a genius and you just stumbled on the right thing and you're saying, no, it wasn't me. But for me, monumentally hard, but in a good way. In a good way that keeps my interest and why I'm doing it for 15 years.
Yeah.
If it was monumentally easy, I'm done.
done in a month.
I would have probably in and out. Because I love the corals and I love the fish, but like that's owning a pet. Right? A hobby is something that you can learn about, spend energy in, and perfect, right? And so, like, I will probably, because I love fish and coral, if it was only that, I probably would love fishing coral at different points in my life and have a tank at different points in my life, the same way that I have a cat or dog in different points in my life.
Yeah.
But a hobby, man, I can carry through my whole life, right? And so when these things intersect, man, is where you really get that, like, kind of, you know, enjoyment that just like you don't get from anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know a single hobby that I can't. I've been thinking about them all: home brewing, RC, or whatever, that would possibly have kept my interest for 15 years.
No, I don't think so. I mean, unless you're going bigger and better every time. Like sometimes in most cases, I'd say that the progression in the hobby is probably what keeps you interested. But I can see myself in this hobby regressing back to a point of interest where so the whole idea of setting up a whole brand new tank in different sizes, different shapes, different biotopes or whatever I want to keep in it re-sparks my interest back in the whole thing again. And I may be starting from scratch all over again, but that's interested.
So this is kind of like one of the debates that is here, right? And so and most of you that have been reefing for a while will probably raise your hand to this one too. It's like, I have a whole series of 3 to 5 year successful tanks. Like, if you have a 10-year successful tank, you're like in a small minority, right?
Yeah.
And it's not because like one of these people is better than the other one either. In every case, it's like that you just kind of like lost interest. I climbed Everest, I looked around, and then I went back down. You know, and like next time it's like, let's do this without oxygen. Right? I heard K2 is harder in the winter. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's kind of like I set up the LPS tank. I set up the SPS tank. I set up the fish MPS tank. And I learned new things. And, eventually, I don't know, I can't tell you a single seahorse tank that I've seen that's been up for 5 years.
No.
Can you? Yeah.
No.
I mean, even we got one here that's been up for like probably 2 years.
Yeah, I think around
3 maybe?
Yeah,
Tyler's.
2, 3.
Yeah.
And you just said, well, Tyler's kind of not as excited about it as he used to be.
It's more about the coral. Well, it's about the coral now. Yeah. Less about the seahorses.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work to take care of the seahorses, and so you really need to get something out of it. You achieved it. You did something real difficult, and whatnot. But it's kind of like on to the next thing. But there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, it's a hobby, so there's nothing wrong with 5-year continuous tanks, and I'm going to change it out. And actually, this was a good discussion that Randy had just right before this, which was, his dream's a 90-gallon tank, right? And so, there's kind of limitations on that, and we're talking about how do you maintain interest once that thing is super awesome, and you had a really good piece of feedback.
I mean, if you think about, so 90 gallons in 5 years, 90 gallons in 10 years is going to fill up, but I'm not one to just sit there and watch it. Like, okay, I've been there, and now I got to keep my interest. Like I said, I like WWC's approach, like to their 500-gallon tank, where I've walked in their store before, or seen in videos before, like massive, giant colonies, and you're like, okay, that's been there for like 5 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden they come in and they go, you know what, I'm done with this. And cut it all out, tear it out, or tear that colony out and put something fragged in there and start all over again with watch a new coral grow. So you can keep your interest by playing around with different things in your tank. Like I can easily get rid of a colony. I'm not really emotionally tied to it. And then start a whole new one with a different type of coral.
So some of you out there would say, blasphemy. That's terrible. You grow it out. But you know what? It's a hobby for each person, right? And so I think this is really cool, actually. A really great idea. Grow them out, build these big colonies, then, frag them out and like fund the next one, right? Or whatever it is you're going to do. Trade them for something else. And so that's super cool. Like you get those little frags and you build out a whole thing, and then rather than like rebuilding my whole tank from scratch again,
Everything's already in
just
place.
like take out a handful of corals and try your hand at a new couple of corals, and with the goal of watching them build out into something big. So I thought that was a really great, unique
Maybe
answer.
more difficult in a few different types of corals. So like my encrusters or like my zoas, like your softy tank in your office. Like we want to replace some of those Z's, those zoas and pallies in there. It's going to take some little more effort.
Yep.
So maybe
Josh
you can
Pork
plan
Sandwich,
ahead.
you're my man. We need to get some new ones. So I've got like 6 paintings. I was going to put them up somewhere. I didn't get to do it. Like, there should be one right here.
Oh, yeah.
But from Josh. So check out his website. But yeah, man. And so the other thing I also thought about was when we were thinking about this is, you know what? So some people want to reach the summit, and then when you get there, is it just as much work to stay there as it is to get there? Eventually, it's going to crumble under its own weight. So there's a lot of people out there that's just like, well, I'm not progressing unless it's getting bigger, right? And Randy's the only person I know that sticks to his guns and has said, no, man, this 90 cube is my dream, right? But it's like,
bigger, Randy.
You know, there's wisdom in this, right?
This one.
He's peaked.
Because at the top, when you hit the peak, man, like now if I can have minimal maintenance, I can just sit around and enjoy it. But if it's a lot of work still, I can't, right?
To me, I was thinking about this last night. So I've done the tank room, I've done the big tanks, I've done the medium, more manageable tanks, and right now my real dream tank would be something that I can actually enjoy rather than constantly messing with it. When I had my tank room, I spent 10 times the amount of time in the back fish room looking through the back glass than I ever did looking at the front, and you know, it's kind of defeats the whole purpose. I mean,
how big was that system?
It was 180 with a 75 sump, and then it even had auto water changes, but I mean, it was still a constant
in-wall
struggle. Yeah.
So that was another thing too, is you build out this dream in-wall, right?
Yeah.
But like some of the things is like you sacrifice when it's in the planning stages, and then you wish you didn't later on. So in-wall, like I listened to all the stories.
I don't think I'd ever do that again.
Yeah, because
there's no access.
You have no way to reach it from the front, and like a lot of times you can put like cabinets in, but there's light spill and they warp and whatever. So you can still do it. You just got to really think about it.
You're scaping and doing everything upside down and backwards, and I had a snorkel mask on at one point, and
it
was
much more
miserable.
Somebody came up when David Hammondtree was here talking about that, because he's got his in wall. Somebody was came up with the idea of, well, why don't you set up a cheapo like Amazon camera or live stream camera in the front, so when you're aquascaping in the front, you can just kind of watch it and see what you're
on
doing.
The live feed.
I'd get so messed up and turned backwards, but.
So open and honest, man, I always wanted an in-wall until I heard your story, and then like, you know what, dude? Like that does sound like it would be really hard. Yeah. And like I want that for myself, but I don't want to be the one that does the work in that case.
Or like even if my magnetic cleaner came detached.
Oh, from the front.
From the front.
Oh, you have to go all the way around the back.
So I have to go around the back, position it, and then quick run all the way around.
Oh no.
And try to catch it, but there's,
so you
50 times turnover, so it's blowing around in the tank. And
so what does it tank look like, man, now that you can, enjoy?
What's your dream?
What's the new dream?
So, by the way, he moved. So he's
built I'm starting over, so there's that.
Yeah,
I'm starting over from scratch. I actually lost all but a handful of coral. I lost
in that 180.
In the 180. Yeah. It went
moving
from some sort of crazy pathogen, potentially from Jason here, that wiped me out over time.
Spreading the stuff.
Yeah. And then I lost all my fish several months ago to what I thought was just a minor power interruption. I lost fish I had for 12 plus years.
I thought it was minor here too. We lost for like 6 hours and we lost like $5,000 in fish.
Yeah.
And I've lost power for a lot longer than that before too and not had that problem, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, it was like a domino effect. I lost one fish and then it triggered a...
So can we see a picture of the in-wall? Like at least like you had a planning stage
I had a
photo.
heck of a time finding... Oh yeah, there's my there's my rendering.
Did it
It
end up
turned out
working
pretty,
like this?
pretty close to that.
This is the fish room.
That was the room, yep. That was the beginning.
So
Where
now,
it all started.
if you're looking at this just for a moment, imagine from the front, if you wanted to look at it,
Yeah.
how
just a
would you
nice,
clean
clean wall.
or like move the aquascape around, trim a coral or whatever?
It was upside down and backwards.
Yeah.
Trying to,
So
yeah,
like,
it was bad.
that becomes
I thought about
work.
cutting. I thought about cutting a hole in that wall
above it.
many times.
Yeah.
But
It gets harder afterwards.
yeah.
So think about that. If you're gonna do in-wall, like find a way that you can get some cabinetry or in there that isn't gonna warp and isn't gonna
And
leak light.
protect all your utility stuff. I mean, that was all brand new.
Oh, that was in the utility
HVAC.
room?
I mean, my ductwork was
Rusty.
rusting, the pipes, and I mean, it ages stuff at
Fast.
a rapid rate. Yeah.
So then, maintenance-wise, what's from a maintenance standpoint? Because you said your dream was less maintenance. Like
Less
that.
maintenance. So honestly, at this point, I don't know if I would get crazy with the coral necessarily. I mean, again, like you're saying, there's no reason why you can't start with simple stuff and then tear it out, provided it's not, invasive mushrooms or xenia or, I don't know. To me, the dream is actually being able to enjoy the tank and sit there and look at it and not have to tinker with it every chance I
Yeah.
every free moment shouldn't be maintenance. There should be
I think I've gone the wrong way.
enjoyment.
So I can't help it. I wanted to go bigger than I've had before, right, in my own house. And the same thing is I don't want to be tinkering with it every last moment either. And I want to slow it way down. In the past, man, it was just like race to the finish line. Like I want to get this up as fast as I can, get it grown out
Like
as
the
much.
marathon coral mounting session we had here. I mean,
Yeah, we wants to put 200 corals in here, right?
Yeah, that was-
And like, I shared this with some people at the show, and this is a first world problem for sure. But when WWC sends you 200 corals to put in the tank, like nobody's shedding a tear over that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty awesome event.
cramming everyone in there. Yeah.
But it also takes away from the enjoyment from it. Like it's. I didn't pick each one of those for the tank, and like I took that like multi-year long event of like acquiring new stuff, dreaming about new stuff, and like really being engaged with the animals we're putting in here. Instead, it was super cool. It's like
The boxes show up. Yeah.
I think what I could say it is
Christmas. Yeah.
It's like curating your own garden versus a gardener coming in and putting it in. Right,
landscaping
it's a
company,
landscaping company.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
The landscaping company probably do a better job than me, but I'll appreciate what I did more. Right?
Yeah, we definitely have a unique problem here with.
Yeah, this is definitely a first world problem, man. But like, it also illustrates what I'm going to fix going forward.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to definitely deck out the front frame of it. So you walk in, you're going to see Euphilia and stuff, and move in, and it'll fill out. And then the back. I'm gonna add just like a couple corals here and there until like I'm gonna enjoy it, the process. I was thinking I was like gonna take pictures of them and then frame them out on the wall with their names and stuff, and really get engaged with the animals I'm putting in here, like so that I have a deeper connection than like here Instatank, and so definitely that is a unique issue, but like not totally, because a lot of people will also just go buy it as fast as they can. And you just skip the process, partially because you don't want an empty tank. I don't want a tank just
staring
empty.
at rocks.
Yeah. So that's kind of like why okay, if I can fill out one, the part of it peninsula is you got multiple sides you can view it from, right? So if I can view the one side and it looks full, I'm okay with the other side just taking a while, right? And also, for the first time in my life, fish, right? I just haven't really gotten into fish in the past, and I think you have. I just haven't. Like the fish are there, to be fish, right? It was the corals that I was really excited about. In this case, man, I think I'm gonna choose like these are my pets, man. I built a system that's gonna last this long. Like there's no reason the fish shouldn't last. The 10, 15 years or whatever.
I had
their
my
lifespan.
flame hawk for 13 years, I guess. Moved them from Maryland in a box and in the back of a truck, and I had gotten rid of all the other fish I had at that time, but I kept him, and that was kind of the breaking point really when he croaked, I decided I was taking a break.
Well,
at
see,
home.
that raises a really good point too.
Yeah.
Is like, so you've been doing it for 20 years. You've been doing it for 15, 16, 17, however many years. You were almost assuming that climbing the Everest and getting to your 10-year tank means that you didn't have any pitfalls along the way. And then, so that's another way to keep your interest is you run into these issues.
Yeah.
You run into the coral disease and stuff, or you run into fish dying. And I think the biggest hurdle to cross then is, how do you stay motivated and start over again, or how do you keep going afterwards? And for a lot of people, that failure, even 5
it's
years
on
after
Craigslist
or
the next
7
day.
years after,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
going to give it all up.
Yeah.
So Jeremy from Brightwell was here, and he didn't share this story. I'm going to share it for him. Sorry. You know, I've talked to him a lot, man, and I talked to him about, you know, his journey with his corals. He's been doing this longer than all of us, and you know, right now he travels a lot, so that's a challenge for a tank. And he gets excited about it on the phone with me. You know, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. You know, I'm gonna get it set up this way and whatever. And one of the things that keeps holding him back, man, is the loss from last time.
Oh yeah.
You know, so he had to set it down, shut it down to move and whatever. And like, he had a coral in there. I think it was called like the 20-year coral or something like that. Like, it'd been with him forever. He'd been fragging it to the stores. He got it like the same year he got it, or his daughter was born, right? And like the devastation even now, man, like it's like, you know, getting back on the horse, you know, like what if it happens again almost?
Yeah.
You know, can I do this? Like, can I handle the weight of losing it again, right? Okay. And the answer is yes, man. If you never know failure, you'll never know great triumph either. Like, I pity the soul that is willing to have neither, right? And so, like, you just got to come in the right way. But like, if you lose a 5-year tank, the chances you set it up again next week are pretty low. Like, you're going to take a break.
It's going to take some time.
Cases.
Yeah. Well, there's a massive investment that you put into it too. It probably most likely. And then
It's also kind of nice not having to take care of a reef tank for a while.
I take a break for like just from time, man, right?
Yeah.
And
It's a little different. I've got several here still. It's not like I'm totally out, but yeah.
Well, you know, you got 3 at your desk. Actually, here we got another one of them was at his desk before.
Oh yeah.
So how big is this guy?
Look at this.
Less than a gallon. That's a GoPro case. Those are 1/4-inch bulkheads.
That tank was up for a year, by the way. It's got like a cup of water in it.
SPS. Well, it had a sump, but yeah, it's got SPS and zoanthids, and there was a fish in there briefly, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually a good example of like what happens if you are looking for something new to do. Well, you set up a 1-cup tank on your desk.
Yeah, why not?
Just in the last year, it's entertaining.
I didn't have enough to do already.
It was attached to a sump too, though.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a 5-gallon bucket. Yeah.
But yeah, like find something new to do. So that's super cool. So yeah, I don't know. So for me, I gotta share that like when you're setting up a big tank, part of the reason I'm thinking about it in terms of just not like setting it up for, you know, series of 5 is because you're spending a lot of money. Like,
Yeah.
I won't ask you how much money it took you to set up the last one because it's probably still painful.
Not the little tiny one?
No. You built up. You're doing CAD drawings
180.
and stuff in your basement, setting it
Oh
up.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And
I didn't keep track. That's dangerous.
don't
can't
keep track.
Don't keep track.
Well, because then when somebody asks, you have to tell them.
Yeah.
And
It's easier just to not have to lie.
I
Yeah.
don't know, a lot.
Lost track. Yeah.
But like, so if I'm going to make this kind of investment, I'm not going to make it because I'm going to do this for 3 year. I have to have some kind of mindset that I'm going to do this for a really long time, right? Like this is going to be the one, you know. If I'm going to put that kind of time and money into it. At this time though, too, I'm pretty certain. I mean, knock on stone. I'm not going to fail like catastrophically. Like, will I have hiccups and stuff? Yeah, but I'm making some decisions in like power management.
Yeah, you have to plan for the inevitable hiccup and prevent it from becoming catastrophic. Yeah.
So, like, number one is every single piece of gear in your tank will fail in 10 years. Some of it 3 times, right? Some of it 5 times.
Yeah.
You know, and the only difference in there is how fast do you know and what do you do about it, right? And so, Like for one instance, you guys will hear about this in a future episode, but I had to put a $10,000 generator in my house, right? So it turns on with gas. And I've never felt the need to do that before.
Nice.
Yeah, so it automatically turns on, natural gas turns on, generator, powers my whole house. I could have got just for the tank for $7, but at that point, like, do the other 3 for my family, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, is like, that seems like a unnecessary thing to some degree, but not if I'm thinking these are my pets for 10 to 15 years, and then not when I live on this like dead end street where all the power is still on power cords in the ceiling, or not in the ceiling, but on the road and poles. And my neighbor says, yeah, we lose power here about once a month, and because there's so few people on the street, we're always last to get it fixed.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so you can be out of power for 3 days here all the time, once a year. Like,
So you're losing your pets and your food and everything. Yeah.
so
that's a
like,
good,
well, now
no-brainer.
the solution's inevitable.
Yeah.
Like if I can understand that that's going to happen to me, I kind of knew it was going to happen to me if I counted up 10 years anywhere I live. A little less so when they're buried, but still like somebody can drive into a power transformer or whatever. But if you have power lines feeding your house from the street, and that's what your neighborhood's like, and you have any kinds of storms like we have in Minnesota, it's just inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to lose power. So yeah,
Human error is also inevitable. It's like your Kalkwasser thing that you did, and then the 160 when you turned on the 2-part doser overnight and came back and it was cloudy. Now we had the E170. I'm just calling out all his failures. Everybody. So,
you know
it's
what,
a mistake, but
man?
it happens.
Everyone's
Like
More
you go
tanks, more
turn an
problems.
outlet on,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
just like, I'm gonna come back to it, and unless you physically make an effort to put your keys on there or like set an alarm or do something, you're gonna forget about
I
it.
still flood my basement on a
And
regular
you're
basis.
20 years into it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so one thing I learned about myself is I'll never come back for it.
Never.
Like I don't know, it doesn't matter. I put like a Band-Aid or a
Phone
rubber band on
alarms.
my finger or whatever, dude. Like I'll just forget that's even there. Like, or what I do that for? I just will never come back. So the rule I've learned is just don't do it. Like don't, like yesterday, you know, when the tank got a half a gallon of bicarb, it was because Josh turned the pump on to prime it rather than just sit there and hold the button until it was primed. And then he forgot, right? Who hasn't done something like that before, right?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, and so, and normally if it was soda ash, we would have,
It would have been
no.
toast.
Well, no, actually the alarm would have gone off almost immediately
the pH.
from, but like because we're using bicarb, the pH goes down just a little bit and there's no warning.
Yeah.
Right? You know, there's no warning at all. And because there's good flow in there, it's actually, you know, gassing off the excess CO2.
Yeah.
So the pH actually didn't get low, and from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. from a half a gallon of that stuff going into the tank. We didn't get our first alarm until then. So
You need
like,
tridents on those tanks.
I know. So I kind of mentioned that, like the Trident would have solved that thing, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. Then Terrence, of course, called me. I was like, dude, you said it was $800. You know, it's only $6. And I'm like, it doesn't matter because you can't even buy them, dude. Like they're always out of stock. You can barely keep them in track.
We gave
But
all
he's-
of them away.
Well, we did give a bunch away. But, you know, he's right in the essence that, like, in that case, I would have watched the alkalinity go up. I can't imagine what it actually hit because we did, like, more than a 90-gallon change, and it was still an alkalinity of 12
On a
at the end.
60-gallon tank?
On a 40-gallon tank, we
did 90
drained it to the
gallons?
bottom, like there was maybe an inch of water at the bottom, and then replaced it all with water from the XXL 750 because it was heated and stable and whatnot.
Yeah.
And still, that little bit diluted to this hit 12 DKH. I can't imagine what it really was. What it was sitting in. So far, no losses at all because we acted fast. You know. But yeah, you just keep learning over and over and over. I'm going to plan on learning less. I don't know if that came out right, but yeah, I want to, like, I'm pretty confident we won't have, I'll have losses, I will have failures, but I'm confident that I won't have a catastrophic one that will like shut down the tank.
Yeah.
And I mean, even within that, there's always room. You know, you never know. You never know when anything specific is going to fail with electronics. But
But you're prepared to bounce back. You're not going to just completely give up on this one.
well, my plan though is like, I will put the resources into it to make sure that it, and like take the time. Like
it
a lot of
right
people are
the
like,
first
how come
time,
the tank's not up yet? And I'm like, yeah, before we were racing. to get these things up.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like now it's like, hey man, I'm gonna put this in about as fast as you would, right? Which means the tank doesn't even arrive until like December, right?
It's at your house,
Yeah, it's in my house.
not here.
Yeah, like my
Yeah.
wife has a limit of how many times me and Dave can go enter the house to film. And it's pretty hard
important to
because I
set
got a
boundaries.
1-year-old and 3-year-old running around screaming the whole time. You know, oh, Dad! You know, like they really want to know what's going on down in the basement.
Yeah.
You know? So so it's gonna go at the same pace that you would do this, which means like from inception to like I'm gonna buy the tank to the time it's actually set up is like a year. Right? And by the time there's corals and stuff in there, I don't know the exact, and it's probably a little sped up from that, but like if I was literally doing this on my own and nobody was watching, 2 years.
Yeah.
Something this big, I would
To
do
get it stocked.
to get it to the
up
point
and
that
running.
like it's running, everything's in its place.
And now we're
because
going.
there's inevitable like a month where it gets almost nothing done to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like all the stuff is here, but I haven't convinced Nick and Randy to come over and help me do it.
To move it into
they're
the basement.
busy. Yeah. Like,
No, but that brings up a really good point about the longevity of your tank and keeping your interest is slowing it down. So
enjoy the practice.
now the Insta tank that I used to throw up, it's going to take me 2 years to get to that point. So now I'm already successful for 2 years because I haven't even got very far in 2 years. And now I'm interested for the next 3 years when I add one coral and I watch that thing for a while and see what it's going to do, and then I add this one over here. So for sure, slowing it down can make me last 10 years.
Well, I think every one of us in the beginning was a race to the finish line.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like oh man, I want it to look like that.
Yeah.
That's how I
Thing,
that's how
you
I went
know?
from a 40 breeder to 125 in like 3 to 4 months. It's like 3 different tanks.
Just
to
scratching
get
that
there.
itch.
Just, hey, I want it now.
So that's if you guys watched today's episode, you heard a little bit about like how I'm going to try to do this in a way that keeps my interest for the next years. So just to reiterate real quick, I'm going to have 3 panes. Front one's going to be all for guests, euphilia and whatever. Back pane's going to be for me. It's all going to be really slow. It's going to be SPS. I'm going to take into my fish. I'm leaving room for build outs. I've added in the refugiums and lagoon tanks and stuff other places. And I just like slow it down, really enjoy the process of the whole thing. It's not a race that I'm in. This one's for me.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can really, really take the next evolution for me. I really got a grasp of life support. Man, like I got a grasp on this. So next step, biology of coral and fish, right? And you guys know me. Like these guys know the names of every last coral out there. To me, green one, purple one. I just haven't
The
like
other
got
green
into
one.
it that
Yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
I love the fish and I love the corals, but like I just haven't got into really, really digging into the species and understanding the differences of all of them and being able to predict the growth patterns just by a simple glance of it. And what I want to do this time is learn all of that, because my real passion behind getting to the summit is actually learning stuff and then doing what we're doing right here, which is share it with other people. So learn and then share, and then like anytime like we're at those Reef Palooza shows, I can watch the light bulb go off as we're talking about something. Like that is the little like shot of joy for me, right? I'm like, oh man, we shared something cool. Like this guy's gonna walk away knowing something he didn't know before, and he's gonna go apply it. Like that is the greatest joy in my entire life. That is why I say all the time, this is my dream job. Thank you so much. It's that little shots of joy that I see as the light bulbs go off. So hopefully I will get to learn more and more and more about that, hopefully with you guys, and then share it with you. So next dream tank, you talked a little bit about it already, but like this is like an imaginary universe where it actually exists.
Yeah.
After your
Alright, so
hiatus?
after my hiatus, my pseudo hiatus, I'm putting together a big freshwater planting tank right now, so we'll see how long that lasts.
Awesome.
The way you described it to me was I'm putting together a freshwater planted tank, and everyone knows that is not going to last long for me.
I mean, they're just as hard as a reef tank, in my opinion.
I'd say harder in some ways.
Yeah, possibly.
The daily maintenance of pruning.
Yeah, pruning. I'm not really into the pruning, so I'm trying to keep it on the easy side and lower maintenance side, but it's been a long time since I had a big freshwater tank. That's where I started when I was, I won a goldfish at a fair when I was like 7, and now I'm here. So it's been a lot in between there. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my house. I want to remodel the basement and see where it best fits in there, but it's not going to be in the wall. It's going to be probably 5 by 3 by 2 just to keep it somewhat manageable. And I don't know.
What is a 5 by 3 by 2?
Anybody with a calculator?
Calculator,
or on
Tank
the
calculator.
onlines.
Yeah.
Volume calculator, 5 by 3 by 2.
Just I want it to be easy to work on, easy to get into and out of. I've got like 5 reef tanks worth of gear at my house, so in my garage, so I feel obligated to use some of it, but yeah, I'm going to enjoy a little bit of a break.
What about like theme-wise on it? So that's the tank and everything.
Type of corals. Okay, I'm
Type of
dying to know,
corals.
because I haven't actually asked you this.
So-
I'm dying to know.
I hate to admit to like coral snobbery because I always give Zach and
do it.
those guys a hard time about it, but you got to be careful about what goes in there if you're planning for the long term. I mean, your zoanthid tank got overrun by probably the ugliest, the ugliest
I mean, if
frag
you've
in there.
seen Josh Pork sandwiches, though, and then you go to your lyrics,
Yeah.
you're like,
There's like
what
hints of the
happened?
coolest ones in there, but then there's this massive mound of.
Brown.
I kind of cry a little inside every time I see that big wad of nasty.
I know. I just got to chisel it off.
Protopalitho in there. So I had Dave. I don't know if you want to show my lagoon, but
Oh, this was one of my favorites.
so that was a pretty sweet tank
Yeah, that
for a
little
while,
bird.
and then they moved me twice here in 2 months.
That cataphilia is
You're-
still alive.
Yeah, I still got.
You're about to give Josh pork
I
sandwich
know I was
a
kind
run
of
for his
killing
money.
it there for a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, just gets
By the way,
Get
if
busy
anybody's
here.
curious why Josh's pork sandwich, I'm gonna ruin his story. But apparently, like he burned down his parents' house with a pork sandwich, and I'm butchering his story a little bit.
All right.
But he told me that.
That's new to me.
I don't know. So there's one thing I learned in this life: if Rev over from Reef to Reef who's here likes you, you must be a good person. And he told me how much he likes Josh, and I really got to know him a little bit better at the most recent show. And he's a super awesome guy. So if you're ever at a show, stop by his booth, get some zoas. I bought a bunch of paintings because I thought they were super
Yeah.
cool. But
So that was a pretty non-committal answer.
Yeah, sorry.
What corals
So-
are you going for?
Again, I want to be able to enjoy it. I don't want to constantly be testing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. A mixed reef, I'd be picky about it, but anywhere from softies to some SPS. I mean,
Are you
I've
going
done
named
kind of
corals?
everything. I don't know.
I think there's a theme in there.
That's tough.
Like once you get to a
Balance.
certain point, picky.
Picky.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need the most.
Yeah.
I just want the stuff that excites me.
I've already done like colostria, and I've already done like all types of euphilia, but I haven't done like gold torch euphilia, and I haven't done like other. I probably wouldn't do candy cane corals again, but
So I guess I wouldn't be like a true coral snob, or I don't really care if it's got a cool name. I just care if it looks cool. So I mean,
You don't want any birthday cakes?
after party
Unicorn.
acros, yeah.
After party acros. I like that.
That was I think it still exists here. But you see those pictures of those things, and they look amazing, and then you get them home, and they don't look like they're worth $600 for a little booger.
I'm going to give you the exception to that because I believe that.
Yeah.
I have seen so many corals that I bought online, and you see it in person, and you're like,
Takes
wah, wah, wah,
Yeah,
you
but
know?
there's a challenge for you though,
yeah.
to get that booger into a colony.
Okay,
that looks
but
like the picture.
Even the color though isn't the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I spent a lot of time this specific Reefapalooza in Chicago, going to every coral booth and filming them and like asking some questions. And you can go to my Facebook page or the Ask Reef to Reef one or Ask BRStv one, and you can see like all the different booths. And the thing that I came away with is if you're into corals and you want to stock your tank, you got to be out of your mind to not go to one of these shows. Fly in for the day.
Well, yeah.
Wait for one that's in your area. There's New York, there's Orlando, there is Chicago now, there's LA. once a year there's one around you, and for probably $200 flight, you can go do something really cool. But also, you can see. I called the post like 10,000 corals, but it's probably 20,000, man. And you can go see the ones in person that ignite your soul, man. Like that is the one, right? And then there were some there, like, you heard me on camera because I'm showing it, real time. Like, this looks fake. This looks like the most photoshopped, high contrast, stretched out photo ever. But dude, it's real.
Yeah.
I want that one. And like, not all of them were expensive either, right? And like, there was one I was at Frost booth, and they're like, dude, I want
good deals.
I want a rock anemone tank only because these things are awesome.
They're really
right.
cool,
When you saw his collection of them there, I could have a whole tank of this, for a while. And then I saw specifically, like, you see those super expensive anemones, right? Yeah. And like, this thing, man, is glowing in a way that I've never seen anything glow, right? Like, I was just flabbergasted.
But you got to see it in person. You didn't have to order it online.
And film it or on a picture, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Right. And the reality is because a lot of times they aren't believable.
Yeah.
Right.
Josh says, "Stop destroying my story."
Josh is here.
I'm so sorry, Josh.
You're accusing him of arson.
Okay, no. So Josh agreed to come on the show.
Okay.
So Josh, when it comes time, he will actually come in and tell the real story. I totally butchered it. I'm so sorry, Josh. All right.
Well,
So,
you got a hard stop at.
I do have a hard stop in 10 minutes. So we're gonna ask. I got a call. I got to take it exactly at 1:30. So we got 13 minutes. Let's answer some questions.
Get some questions, eh? So hello, Josh. Good to see you.
There you are.
And everybody else that joins us normally. Glenn Rudolph, $4.99 as always.
Wow,
Appreciate
thank
you,
you.
man.
Right on, man.
He does have a question attached to it this time. How can I fast forward this series to get to the display fuge episodes, or the so-called wall-mounted frag tank?
You can't. You
not
gotta take
gonna
the
take
journey
that
along with me,
personally.
dude. Little bit by bit.
We'll see you in a while.
So,
Thanks, Glenn.
I was told once that the great story is somebody wants something and the process of how they get it. So that's what I want, and you get to watch the process of how I get it, but it's gonna be long.
Brings you there every week.
And you know what? You think like, oh man, how am I gonna wait all this time for to see that happen? Like, dude, it seems like the BRS160 or the 52 weeks of reefing was like yesterday, man, right?
Yeah.
But that was like 4 years ago.
Going on 4 years.
Yeah, it was 2015 or something, right?
Oh man.
So dude, like the stories go by all the time. You learn something new every week, and so there is no fast forward button on life. And in this case, I'm actually making an actual effort to slow it down, right? And so we can really feel the journey of what it's like to set up an actual tank and explore like all the little aspects of it.
You end up with a better result too when you take your time.
For
you don't
sure.
just cram all your wires under the stand. You don't. I mean,
I still do it though.
So
I know. I just did it.
So-
like a week ago, I did the same thing.
better results.
But because I'm in a rush. Yeah.
Poor Felix. Okay, so I had an initial idea of how I want to do this tank. I changed it by a few inches. Had to reorder all the glass.
Yeah.
Right, it's already done.
You didn't go smaller, I'm assuming. Yeah.
No, I went a little bit bigger. I didn't account for some things.
no.
And then the poor guy, man, we've been talking about the overflow thing. Originally it was internal.
Yeah.
Then I changed my mind about that. I just couldn't do it. I thought I could stomach it, and I just couldn't in the end. So we go external. And so, like, this poor guy, Felix, he's working with me all this time. We're doing all these changes and whatever. But taking the time to get to the end, I'm actually happy with what we came up with yesterday, right? And it was yesterday we finalized the last little bit of it.
How many times has he bought new glass?
Only once.
Okay.
Right? Well, I was actually buying some new glass now for the external overflow block, so 3 times. It's taking the time, man. Now I'll be really happy with what came out the other end. If I hadn't, I was rushing it, I would have gone with the original thing. And then every time I looked at that box, drive me crazy at the box inside. But more so was I just realized I really, I don't know if it's possible, but I really want to have only MP60s on the back, no pumps or cords in the tank, on the ends or anywhere else. And if I only put them on the sides on a 4-foot wide tank, or deep, however you want to say it, it's all the detritus going to collect in the center on the
You
bare
can't
bottom.
even get it. Yeah.
I need one of those pumps on the middle to flush it out.
Yep.
And I just can't have an overflow that goes top to bottom because of that, or I'll cry. And so thank you, Felix, for sticking with me. Actually, every time I call him, like, before I say what I'm going to say, you should just lie to me and say it's too late, I can't make any changes. But he refuses to lie to me. So I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, next one.
Let's see. Jeremy, we got Our Reef, $1.99 from them. Love the challenge and love the challenge. The successes are very satisfying. Absolutely.
Oh, awesome.
It's kind of why you do it. Yeah.
Let's see. Jake has a bunch of questions in here, so that's
Oh,
pretty
look at
cool.
that.
Wow.
Bam.
So let's start
Dave pulls out all the good questions, Jake. So bravo that you got like 3 or 4 of them here.
So first is, where is your favorite spot to place the heater in the sump?
Oh, all right. You?
Wherever it fits.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Somewhere with good flow.
Me personally,
Yeah.
I would put it, if I could fit it, I'd put it probably in the baffles where the water actually flows around it,
Yeah.
right? But outside of that, I put it in the main chamber because that's the one chamber I know for sure will never go dry, right?
Yes.
Unless we let it sit for the next 3 years. Even 3 years, it might still hold water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So never
Heaters
ever a
don't
return
last that
pump
long
area.
anyway.
Yeah, never a return pump area, never anywhere that it could run dry. That would be my answer.
Good flow.
Cool.
Yep.
Jake also asks, if you don't have a drilled tank, how would you run your return?
Oh, drill it is the answer. I'd stop and drill it.
It's super
Or
easy.
up and over the top.
You could just
Doesn't look as nice, but you're not
You've
married.
drilled. There's a footage out there on
drilling
our
the lagoon?
Instagram of BRS Instagram
Yeah.
where Nick drilled the tank while it was full and while it was fully established. While it was that lagoon tank,
Yeah.
drilled it in place.
I got some
It can be
be
done.
done.
street cred for that.
Yeah.
I would drill it personally. I just make the decisions where you're never going to worry about it now because I think everything in reefing, everything catches up with you.
Yeah.
Always. Every bad decision where you're like, I should probably do that.
Don't worry about
but
the float valve.
I
Just
don't know.
you'll remember.
Boom. You just
Flood.
punch yourself in the face right now because somebody else is going to do it for you later.
Yeah.
It is, every time you feel that way, just go do it the right way if you can.
I like this
Absolutely.
one from Tristan's Reef that we haven't pulled over yet, but he says, are you going to do the BRS WWC hybrid cycle, and how will you address issues like aptasia, turf algae, and et cetera in this,
Okay.
I'm guessing, your tank?
So cycling my tank, now I'm no longer in a race to get this off the
Yeah, it
tank,
could be
right?
longer than the BRS WWC.
Okay, so there's a couple of different things I learned about cycling that I will do from here on out.
Okay.
First, I will get all of the utilitarian fish established, right? So probably a 4-month process. And I'm not thinking 4-month cycle because it's like, it'll give you an idea
giving
what
it a
you're
hard
kind of
deadline.
how long it should take.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is get all the utilitarian fish in there before I turn the lights on, right? So I'll have my tangs for all the various types of tangs that eat algae will be all established in there. I'll probably have some wrasses in there before the corals go in that eat parasites. I'll probably hopefully I won't end up with any parasites, but if they are in there, these will probably keep them at bay in a way they don't spread.
Yeah.
I have all those fish in there that help keep the tank clean, established, and ready to go before I turn the lights on.
Right.
The second thing is one of the things I've learned in the last 6 months is I always thought all that bacteria booster crap was garbage. I really did. I just I knew the one the one and only will help cycle your tank and get rid of
Jump
the
starter
cycle.
bacterias are
That's
decent.
legitimate.
Yeah.
It's definitely with just like dry rock that doesn't have any of that stuff on it. Giving it a source, totally worthwhile to do.
Right.
However, all that stuff that's clean your tank. I thought it was nutrient, whatever, but so.
The
Gunk
biodigests and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's
what
real.
I'm learning is most of those things
Some of
are
it's not.
bacillus bacterias or different types of bacterias that eat algae for a living, right? And so we saw if you watch my my own Facebook page, so you can follow me if you want, just Ryan Batchelor on Facebook. And I showed a film of the video back there of the Red Sea tank that's in the studio. It was filled with bubble algae and hair algae, right? It's pretty bad. We started dosing Vibrant to the tank, and in must be 5-6 weeks?
Yeah.
Something like that?
6, I think.
Yeah, all gone.
It's not a marathon.
Right?
Or it's a marathon,
There's a
not a
little
race.
bit of ulva on the back, a couple pieces of bubble algae, all of it's gone though. It looks super nice. So like what Jeff has told me is like, dude, he starts it with the tanks this way, right? And because of that, in the beginning, you never even run into algae.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the holy grail. Like if you can start a tank filled with
Skip
your
the algae
utilitarian
stage.
fish,
Yeah.
right? And you have a bacteria that helps you cycle the tank to the point that you don't run into algae issues in the first year, the success rates for the average reaper probably quadruple. Like you don't run into algae in your first year, holy cow. Right, I mean that's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about cycling, so the cycle for me will be cycle using some kind of product to get like the bacteria up and running. There's a couple of them out there. You know, the one and only I think is like a dormant, or maybe it's a live bacteria.
Dr. Tim's.
Yeah, and then there is some dormant ones like the Microbacter 7. And I think Fritz has one that's like live, but it has to have like a real tight, you know, it has to be in a refrigerator. Turbo Star, it has to be in a really tight temperature one. Recently, Brightwell's been working on one, I forget what it's called, but it has a really wide temperature range, so they can be shipped throughout. It can even be frozen like up to 3 times. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's huge.
So we'll probably test that, by the way.
Yeah.
I'd love to find that out. But like, so I'll use one of these things that will cycle the tank for me, get ready for the fish, get the tight fish up there, and before I turn the lights on, probably a week or 2 before that, start dosing the bacillus or similar type bacteria that helps keep algae at bay, turn the lights on, and see if we can just skip the entire ugly stage of the tank. And so start thinking about a cycle not as ammonia, which is the simplest thing out there. A cycle is getting the tank ready for corals, right? And so that's a semblance of what that will look like for me, or at least my approach to it. I will also probably run UV on these things, and you can debate UV all you want, but like all the things I've seen is it will reduce the chances of me running into issues in the tank. Ounce of prevention, pound of cure kind of thing.
For sure.
In fact, in the tanks back there, if you can follow all the little lives we do on Facebook, when we turned the UV off, one of the tanks got sick, and so did the one that didn't have UV of the 4.
Yeah.
Right? So
It was I think it was the tanks that had the reused live rock. Yeah. So there was something in that system that after the UV was off, showed its face on some of the tanks.
anecdotal,
really
but
interesting.
like I don't care. I don't need absolute proof. Like I go buy dog food or cat food. Like I don't need somebody to show me a 40 years peer-reviewed study. I just do the best I can.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's kind of what the cycle looked like for me. And hopefully all that makes sense. But more approach. I want my cycle needs to keep algae at bay.
Yep.
Or all the new problems that people have.
Yeah.
Next question, and then we got to roll.
Yeah, you got to get out of here in a minute. So last one for Nick. Nick, if you had slightly changed your in-wall setup to have allowed for access, would you still feel the way that you do, that you would never do an in-wall setup again?
Oh man, maybe. It kind of depends on the room, I suppose. A hatch, I guess, would have been nice, but there's no real replacement for being able to access a tank from 2 or 3 sides. There's just, yeah.
I don't
maybe.
think I ever see myself.
If I had a
in the in-wall.
professional
What if you hire a
finished
service?
carpenter to do it, yeah.
Hire a service takes care of it for you. Then you do in-wall.
To clean my tank?
Yeah.
Money's
Oh,
not an
man.
option.
Oh wait, money's not an option?
No, it doesn't say that. But
No,
a lot
but
of people
in
hiring?
the inner
Yeah.
world.
I've seen a lot of really awesome
Yeah.
in-wall tanks, and a really high percentage of them have a maintenance service come and take care of their tank.
It's because
So,
it's
and that-
form over function,
yeah,
really.
it is. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful addition to a room. There's
Yeah.
no question,
Yeah,
right?
or it's like framed
But-
picture almost.
Even if you put the tile or the doors in the front, you can access it.
Yep.
You still miss the ability to get from the sides.
Yep.
Right. So it's beautiful addition to the room. It's like the same thing. Like when we talk about going 30 inches deep, over 30.
Yep.
You get taller and taller. It's a beautiful, beautiful tank, but know what you're getting into because my arm ain't that long.
Yep.
And there's not wrong answer. It's just no. Like when you're doing it, what
Long-term.
you're doing.
Yeah. So long-term feasibility of maintenance fully comes into the 5-year, 10-year tank. I mean, it's kind of all there is to it.
So hope you guys all like caught something out of this, like why maybe a couple of this is like, yeah, that is why I do this, and this is some reasons and how I could make this, you know, interesting to me long term. I'm gonna kill you this, but we are gonna skip next week too. I will tell you that first off, it's because it's Halloween next Thursday, right? And I couldn't get any guests to come in on Halloween because they all had kids and stuff, and they're gonna trick or treat. Flying into Minnesota ain't cool. So the second thing is Dave and I are actually working on. This is the first time I've talked about it out loud, really. But we're working on a new series for newer reefers. You know, some real clear, direct advice, and so we're really trying to jam that out in the next few weeks. It'll probably come out in the next month or so. But so I mean, it's probably beyond most of the people that are watching here today. But you might be interested in it. But hopefully, a cool little series to help people be successful in the beginning, that first year where it's really hard. And if you get past that first year, man, you can really go anywhere. You know, like get your feet wet and understand. So that's what we'll be working on. So we're gonna take a break again next week. I know you're gonna kill me. I can feel all the evil glares as we sit here right now, hidden through the camera. So I'm sorry, but yeah, it's Halloween. Enjoy Halloween. Go trick or treat, or go with your kids, or do whatever. So see you in a week or two.
Bye, guys.